Chapter 1, Glamis, Monday the 2nd of October, 2034. Skye waited, leaned up against a cargo van outside of the warehouse. With a critical glare, she watched the two new recruits chatting one another up by the other van. They had just gone through the vetting process to make sure that they would never reveal the truth about this job. This was their test run. If either of them proved subpar, they would need their memories of the vampire world wiped. Skye had only cleared these hurdles 2 weeks ago. The sound of heavy boots on concrete announced the night shift supervisor, Kathy. She paired a high-visibility vest with a full face of makeup and styled her long bleached curls into a ponytail. Her fake tan and curvy figure hid the reality that she was, in fact, one of the undead residents of Glamis. She wasn't just any undead either. The community in Glamis called her the blood conductor because of the blood rationing system she had built over the last century. Skye was her familiar. Though Kathy's voice was hoarse, her Scottish accent and sweet red-lipped smile rounded out its edge. She spoke to the recruits. "Evening, loves. I'll be with you two in just a second." She swept on over to Skye. Skye pushed her purple box braids over her shoulder and mirrored the smile. "Hiya." "Hiya, dear." "How are you feeling about those two?" Kathy asked in a lowered voice. "Dunno. They'll be fucking each other by morning. I hope neither will take my spot." Kathy shook her head. "Like I said, you're going to stay my familiar. They're just here to help you. Demands doubled just this year. Poor Dom was scunnered by the end of it." Dominic had been Kathy's previous familiar and one of Nixie's friends. He had referred Skye to Kathy as his replacement, now that he was a vampire. "You think they'll be happy with that arrangement?" Kathy nodded. "If they aren't, then they don't get the job." Skye allowed herself to relax, though only marginally. Her new position as familiar felt unsteady. In Glamis, Kathy was the only vampire allowed a familiar in the past decade due to the influx of undead seeking refuge and blood in the city. She only turned someone once every 5 years or so. Kathy lifted her chin towards the van Skye would be driving tonight. It belonged to the warehouse, unlike the usual delivery van, which Kathy owned and kept here. All the blood's been loaded. Usually the blood stayed in Kathy's van, from blood bank to delivery. She also had the van modified to appear totally off while its temperature system maintained the blood at 4 degrees. "Yes," Skye answered. "Cooling system working fine?" "Yes." "All right. You best be off. I'll be here when you get back." Skye fished out the keys of the warehouse van, unlocking it and entering. She paused to watch Kathy in the rearview mirror as she strode over to the two humans. Skye pushed away whatever worries remained and departed from the cold storage warehouse. Skye had to deliver almost 700 liters of blood weekly, though tonight she only had to drop off around 400. That didn't stop her from tensing up as she crossed the threshold of the industrial area into the wider city. She supposed that one day she'd get over the uneasy feeling of driving around stolen blood. She got an all-right wage for one night's work a week, but the big payment came at the end, when Kathy would turn her into a vampire. During her initial meeting with Kathy, Skye had said that she wanted to escape death, but omitted the niceties. It felt too personal to share the whole truth. Kathy was satisfied enough with the answer to take Skye in. Skye's first stop was a flat where Dominic lived. Since Kathy kept a delivery personnel human to minimize the risk of someone nicking blood, his recent turning had created a job opening. He, like his sire, was an enchanter. A vampire's type of magic was determined by who sired them. Enchanters were known for their psychic abilities. They were also the most common type, though apparently very few early generation enchanters remained. Why, Skye wasn't sure, but she did know earlier generations were more powerful. Perhaps that had something to do with it. Dominic was waiting outside, a cigarette between his smoking lips. He was a lanky guy, coated in tattoos, with slick hair dyed black. Skye found a parking and got out. "Hiya." He dropped the cigarette, killing it under his boot. You're right. All good on my end. Skye headed to the back of the van, Dominic following. Got 2 potential recruits. We'll see how that works out. He leaned up against the van. Skye was tall, but he was like a palm tree compared to her. I doubt Kathy will actually bring one of them on. How come? Inga was the one who suggested it. She felt bad for me. Kathy's more worried about leaks, you know? Will be more work to make sure they stay solid. Well, you know Kathy better than me. Skye opened the back of the van and pulled out one of the boxes. Here's your rations. Thanks. Dominic took the box. Hey, you're performing at Blush this Friday, yeah? Skye shut the doors to the van. Oh, yeah. Cool. See you then. Also, Dominic scratched his stubble. Just so you know, I'll be at Mark next week. You can stop by there. For my delivery, I mean. Thanks for letting me know. She got back into the van and left. A couple of stops later, she reached the gay nightclub Blush. It had been Skye's haven when she first flung herself from English Coventry to Scottish Glamis. She wanted to find herself outside of the context of her family and hometown. With her family, even the half whom she loved, she was the transgender queer one with no parents. In the Coventry queer scene, she was one of a handful of people of colour. Glamis, despite its comparable size, drew in people from across the world with its university and art scene. Blush had been at the heart of this queer diversity for decades. The nightclub had helped Skye find herself. Singing and dancing were hobbies she allowed to let slip during her teen years. They returned to her life through performing there for some cash. It's also where she met her friends, including Nixie. One of the more jarring revelations when learning about vampires was that not only was the person who owned Blush a vampire, but she was the most powerful one in the city, both politically and in her blood. The closer a vampire was to the first generation, which only had one occupant, enigmatically called the First, the more powerful they were. Almost all vampires in Glamis, including Kathy, were the relatively weak Adinamos, who belonged to the 11th generation or later. Blush's owner, Inga, was a 4th generation Sunborn. Sunborn were the rarest type of vampire, with only 5 in all of Glamis. They could be out in the daylight, turn invisible, become smoke, and the most powerful were also capable of generating solar blasts. Inga received her deliveries at Blush, which was open all nights of the week. Tonight, right in the only parking spot available, was a disheveled homeless man who had gotten an empty twin-sized pram stuck in the street gutter. Aren't those expensive? Where'd he get that? Oi, Teddy! Inga's voice pierced through the van's window. The vampire, with choppy blonde hair, hopped down the pavement to aid the homeless man. Teddy hurried away with the pram as Inga waved Skye into the parking space. Skye got out and headed to the back of the van. Thanks, Inga. She slid one of the boxes out and into Inga's hands. The vampire, who stood scarcely above 5 foot, held the 7-kilogram box effortlessly. How's the night going? Should be over earlier than usual. New recruits, Skye answered. Inga nodded quickly, her short fringe bouncing. Hope Kathy will take 'em on. Would be better if you don't have to drop off boxes into the early hours of the morning. She said the population's doubled in just the last year? Yeah. Enforcers outside Scotland have been getting a bit more murdery lately. I thought they'd have calmed down. Guess they want to go back to solutions from the 1500s. All enforcers have the right to cull Adinamos if they deemed it necessary. Inga, Scotland's enforcer, didn't do that though. That's what made Glamis safe. Will we have enough blood for them all? Skye inquired. Inga shrugged, the box lifting over her chin for a moment. Kathy's good at making plans. You just focus on deliveries. Her head turned to Blush, like she'd heard something. Gotta go. See ya. Skye flew through her deliveries. Chain-wearing, chain-smoking enchanters rooming in a tenement. A sunborn couple in a luxury flat who'd recently adopted a human child. A few of Kathy's older familiars now weaved into the medical system's bureaucracy one way or another. Her ex-familiars helped her pull off the blood disappearing act as the system got more sophisticated. Skye supposed that she may need to slot into that system after she got turned. The thought of wiping the same minds and datasets weekly was enough to put her asleep. Still, it was a much better fate than Huntington's. The night eventually reached Skye's favorite delivery, a cat. The third and final type of vampire were shifters. They could transform into animals. The earlier their generation, the more animals they could take the shape of. They were relatively rare in Glamis, as they tended to prefer a rural lifestyle. Some even remained in their animal forms forever and stalked forests, hunting lonely hikers. When in their animal forms, they were also not in danger of sunlight. There were just over a dozen in the city, including one who had taken the form of a tawny short-haired cat going by Bastet. She lived a cozy life in a townhouse. She had not been in a human form for decades. The drop-off point for Bastet was an oak tree in Glamis's oldest graveyard, morbidly placed opposite its largest hospital. The graveyard was a regular haunt. Bastet sat by the tree, her fat tail twitching. "Hey, Bastet," Skye greeted as she set the box down. "Hope you're having a good night?" Bastet purred, circling the box. Skye was unsure of how and where Bastet stored the bags, but it seemed like she had a system that worked. A few more drop-offs later, Skye reached her final stop. This was another shifter, one who resided outside of the city. On the motorway leading out, the world quietened and darkened. The dashboard's digital clock said it was 11. The sky was overcast and moonless. Skye's luminescent yellow nail polish glowed against the wheel. She turned the music off. The dark, silent road was invitingly eerie. Her destination was a cabin in the woods, where a shifter called Benny resided. The cabin had chipped bricks, mismatched wooden roofing, and a barbed wire fence around the perimeter. This was the only delivery where Skye didn't have to directly hand the cardboard box over to the recipient. Apparently, Nipply Benny was not just an affectionate nickname. His cabin, unlit as always, showed no signs of life. Skye had asked Kathy if anyone ever did welfare checks on him. Kathy reassured her that Benny was as live as any vampire could be. Skye dropped the box off by the wire gate and hopped back into the van. Done for the night? She headed off. She was back at the warehouse just before midnight. Kathy waited inside, sipping on a maroon slushie. The other van was not back yet. Skye parked and hopped out, her bracelets clinking like a wind chime. "Hey, the other two aren't back?" "On their way. Done with deliveries, at least. But they only had half what you had." Kathy shook her head. As sweet as Kathy was, she did not like inefficiency in her system. "You get on home and get some sleep before class." "It's just sociology, I'll skip it," Skye said with a shrug. "Don't skip class," Kathy shouted. "I don't want this job to interfere with your education." Skye chuckled. "My flatmate's drinking will do more damage than this job ever could." An unfamiliar voice with a thick Irish accent interrupted. "Catherine, I presume." The two women pivoted in the direction of the voice. A figure stepped out of the shadows. Her movements were fluid, footfalls silent, and her unnaturally green eyes studied Kathy and Skye. She had unkempt ginger hair pulled into a low ponytail. A bulky backpack slung lazily over one of her shoulders, and her clothes were plain and worn. Kathy's posture tensed. "Who are you? How did you find this place?" "I just followed the van that was distributing blood." The stranger looked at Skye. "I assumed it would take me somewhere important." Skye winced. "You... what?" "No vampires are meant to know about this facility's location," Kathy stated firmly. Even past familiars had to get their location wiped from their memories before being turned. "Oh." The stranger gave the warehouse an impassive scan. "Whoops." "Who are you?" Skye asked. "My name's Kana," the stranger answered, voice monotone. "Folklore calls me the Dark Door." Daragdua? Skye echoed. Kenna's lips twitched into a faint smile. Close enough. Kathy's voice sharpened. Skye, go. Skye's eyes flickered between the two. She asked Kathy, "You'll be okay?" "I just have information to share. If I wanted to fight..." Kenna shrugged, looking to Kathy. "Well, I wouldn't have wasted my time with a conversation first." Kathy's eyes narrowed. "I'll be fine, Skye. You go." Skye did so. Both her worry and curiosity kept pulling her eyes over her shoulder. Kathy and Kenna had switched over to speaking Scottish Gaelic, a language Skye couldn't begin to decode. She exited the warehouse and headed for the nearest bus stop, where she took a seat. "She said she's in folklore." Skye took out her phone to search what Daragdua was, but she couldn't piece together how on earth to spell it. Just as she gave up on the search, the bus arrived. She was the only occupant of the driverless vehicle. She sat by a window and sent Kathy a message. "Hope all's good." When she was about halfway home, she got a reply from Kathy. "I'll explain what that was. Don't worry about it." I'm less worried, more curious, Skye thought. But she answered, "All right." She locked her phone and looked out to the city. The outline of her face reflected against the backdrop of passing brick buildings, neon signposts, and the nocturnal residents weaving through the streets.